I'm Pastor Jason Talsness. Welcome to the Sunday Sermon. Grace and peace be to you from our Lord God, the Father in heaven. Amen. We are talking about hearts today. We've been talking about stones this entire season of Lent. We are in the middle of Lent, the heart of Lent. A little over 3 weeks ago, it was Ash Wednesday, and in 3 weeks, it'll be Easter Sunday. And we've been talking about stones and the journey of stones in this season where, based on the Bible verse in 1 Peter, we are like living stones being built into a spiritual house. So as Wayne mentioned in the children's message, everyone has been invited to carry a stone, and if you want to carry a stone with you for the rest of Lent, go ahead and grab one from our baptismal font. A lot of people are losing their stones. That's okay. It's just how things go. Keys, cell phone. Oh, that's right. I had that stone thing we're supposed to do at church. But we're talking about hearts today. And in the Bible, the heart is used as a metaphor to understand a person's psyche. How is the heart? And if you think about it, there are so many sayings that we have in our language that refer to the heart. I want to do a little bit of crowdsourcing, okay? Usually I leave you alone. I just talk and you kind of sit there and let rest. But I want you to answer some questions, sayings about the heart. Because we wear our heart on our sleeve. And because people who are very generous have a heart of gold. What else do we have for hearts? Home is where the heart is. Thank you, sir. Anything else? Bless your heart. Great Southern saying. It comes in handy. You can say bless your heart to almost anything, and it sounds like the right thing to say. Bless your heart. What else? Achy, breaky heart. Cold hands, warm heart. I don't know where that comes from, but everyone says cold hands, warm heart. What else? Heartless. Cold. All right. Heartless, have a heart. Heart and soul, the essence of a person, or something like that. Heartburn, I heard over here, yeah?
From the musical Damn Yankees, there's a song,
You gotta have heart. Yeah. There's heartfelt greetings. Listen to your heart, that's appropriate. Those are good. You can win somebody's heart, you can take heart, you can lose heart, you can wear one's heart on one's sleeve, you can cry your heart out. I think there are a few people out here who have broken some hearts, right? You know who you are. So the heart is very important in how we think about life. Where is your heart? And the Bible talks a lot about the heart as a reflection of how someone's doing. How is their inner being? How is their psyche? Because hearts are prone to wander. And yet we see in Scripture that God calls his people back again to be with him. And we have this week with Ezekiel, the Lord says to Israel, I will take away your hearts of stone and I will give you hearts of flesh. and I will put a new spirit in you. That's what it's all about, a new spirit from God, some freshness. And by the time we get to Jesus in the first century, there have been practices upon practices heaped in the Jewish faith to make sure one is okay with God, that their heart is square with God. And so we have these characters, the Pharisees, these lovers of God's law, and they added things and added practices and traditions. And through that, they thought they were good in God's eyes. So the story I read to you today from Luke is about these Pharisees who dine with Jesus, and Jesus does not wash his hands in the way the Pharisees are supposed to. It's not just that he wasn't clean. He didn't do the spiritual kind of mechanics the Pharisees did of dropping their hands in the water and lifting them up to God and dropping them again and lifting them up to God, and the ceremonial cleaning of the dishes, of the cup, and so on. And Jesus gets criticized for not doing this. And from that criticism, he points to the Pharisees' emptiness. Y'all are going through the motions. You all are doing those external things, but you're missing the point about what God wants inside. The Pharisees were preoccupied with questions about following the law. There's a law that says, 10 Commandments, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Well, in order to keep it holy, you're not supposed to do work. And, what is work? Can you carry things if it's work? Can you carry things with your hands? I found some musings about the law and work. If I could advance the screen. Listen to this. It's written in exclusive language. The he is anyone. It's man or woman. But to carry a burden is forbidden. All right? Can't do work on the Sabbath. He who carries anything, whether it be in his right hand or in his left hand or in his bosom or on his shoulder, is guilty. But he who carries anything on the back of his hand or with his foot, go figure, or with his mouth or his elbow or his ear or with his hair or with his money bag turned upside down or between his money bag and his shirt or in the fold of his shirt or in his shoe or in his sandal is not guilty because he does not carry it in the usual way of carrying it. These are the folks Jesus was talking to in our story in the gospel. They're preoccupied with certain external matters. And he's saying, you've lost your heart for justice and you've lost your heart for God. You're just doing all these shallow things and you like to be recognized in the marketplace. And we might say, that's back then with Jesus and the Pharisees. But the reason why these Gospels, this Word of God, is still around is because everybody's got a little bit of a Pharisee in them. Everybody is tempted to think, if I just go through the motions and I'm externally okay, then I'll be okay. Then I'll be righteous. And in the beginning of the 20th century, there was a prediction that because of science and technology, that religion would fall away. 100 years later, if anything, I think science and technology has caused us to need religion all the more. And I want to say that as Pharisees, we try to get things right externally. We're modern American Pharisees. And this is how. Because the problem is the same for all human beings, that our hearts grow weary, that our hearts are heavy. It's just life. It's just part of, loving others and living and working. The things inside us start to feel kind of goofed up and wrong. Well, what do we do with that? Well, what does America tell us to do? You can do a few things. Drink some wine, right? Every night. Another heart verse. Wine gladdens the heart. Psalm 114. Great verse. Write it down for you wine lovers. Wine gladdens the heart. Okay, yes. But too much wine is not good. Too much medication to dull the pain of a restless heart is a dead-end road. For a lot of people, if it's not wine, it's the feeling of comfort that one gets after buying something. You know, it's so tempting just to go there to Best Buy and buy that giant flat screen TV and all the speakers and the entertainment system. And you don't even need money for it because Best Buy will give you 18 months, you know, to credit to pay it. And you go home and you set that thing up, and then you can just escape. Whatever movie you want, you can go away to kind of deny that restless heart. You feel better about yourself for a while. I mean, is it just me, or is it not fun to buy things? A nice distraction. But the problem is that little high of buying things goes away. And then the person has a burden. My heart is low. My heart is weary again. I'm going to go buy again. I'm going to go charge again. And then it kind of diminishes. Debt goes up. Restlessness in the heart stays the same. That doesn't work either. Some people adapt online personas and, you know, just escape their life. Tired of being me? Invite a new me. Invent a new me on the internet. I've been not one to really watch those makeover shows. When I'm flipping around and I can see that we're just at the beginning and then you look at the end, I confess to watching to see how the person will turn out. Reinvented person. I've also noticed that in those makeover programs, they don't use middle-aged guys that much to do the makeover. Like, yeah, we're slightly overweight and balding. There's not so much you can do with that guy, you know. You do stuff with women's hair and fashion, but us guys are kind of stuck. I can just see him in the back saying, we can't do anything with this guy. Give us someone else, you know. But if you listen to the person who talks after they've had the makeover, they use language that you usually hear when someone's gone through a religious conversion. They say things like, this is the greatest thing that happened to me in my entire life. My old life is gone, and I have a whole new chapter in my life, a whole new me. You ever watched that? I mean, I've just got this curious preoccupation of the person, what happens later. Because even though they have new clothes and new makeup and new hair, it's the same stuff inside that has not changed at all. So we all have issues with our heart. But what do? There's limitations to what the world has to offer us. And that's where I believe God comes in. Because for all the things that we are in this church, we're not a big church. We don't have a lot of programs to offer. But the world is full of restless hearts, looking for meaning and for refreshment. And that's where God comes in. That's where people like you come in. We've been doing these, discussions this Lent with one another about our ministry and listening to one another. And one thing we're starting to hear is I want a place where I can share my life with others. Do you have people here, when your heart is weary, that you can open your heart to and be heard and be listened to? Because there are few things that are more frustrating to suffer from than a restless, angry, sad, broken down heart. What do you do with it? Where do you go with it? And as we've been practicing listening to God and listening to one another in this year, I think what we have to offer a lot of people is our ears, to hear their pain, to hear their frustration, and to have another human being hear and know and feel what they've gone through. And the trouble with this Pharisee business in the Gospels is we in the church are the biggest Pharisees of all. We have our rules and our structure, and we're tempted to feel better about ourselves because we observe those rules and structure. And we might want to say, well, we need to go to church and keep up appearances and say everything's fine when really everything is not fine. And I like the idea of a church community where people can be real with one another. You know, I've got 2 kids in middle school, and it's hard sometimes, you know. This week, my son said something to his mom, and I said, Peter, you can't talk to your mom like that. You got to show her respect. If I would have spoken to my parents like that, I would have been in big trouble. And he looks at me and he says, well, yeah, that was 40 years ago, he said. Like, who is this kid? Can't you just be the nice 5-year-old that used to live with us? You know? What is the draw of rap music anyway? It's hard. And I'm just being honest with you, because if you got kids, it's hard. It's a scary world. And can we be a place for children and families and people with heavy hearts? There's a tradition from the Roman Catholic Church where they'll have art and statues of Jesus, and the heart will be on the outside. You've heard of Sacred Heart. And that tradition has to do with emphasizing Jesus' heart for his people, for all of humanity, his love for us. In the beginning of Lent, on Ash Wednesday, our church confessed Psalm 51, "Create in me a clean heart, O God." And that is our prayer. That is our desire. So I encourage you today to just, whatever is burdening your heart, just leave it here this morning. And know that with that, God will fill your heart with a new spirit. That's the work of Christ. That's what he wants for us, is to have a heart shaped by his Son. To God be glory, now and forever. Amen.